Hello friends, this is Jasu and welcome to Let's Play Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Genesis. Yeah, here we are. This is, of course, one of the most well-known titles in gaming history from one of the most well-known franchises starring one of the most well-known characters. I'm going to be playing as Sonic alone here just because it makes the game marginally easier in a couple different ways that I'll get into later once they become kind of relevant. But yeah, Sonic 2, insane. What a beloved classic from the annals of gaming history and all that nonsense. Or maybe to give a bit of an introduction to the game as far as what it means, what the game is to me personally, in kind of my personal history. This is the game that got me into video games in a big way, growing up as a kid back in the early 90s. Yeah, I did own a NES before this, and I played that a lot, and I definitely played a lot of video games, but Sonic 2 was sort of where it all began for me in terms of getting like really ridiculously, stupidly into video games for pretty much all my life. I played this game at a friend's house, and it was pretty much my first exposure to what was at the time kind of next-gen consoles, and it just blew me away. The graphics, the gameplay, just totally unlike anything I had ever experienced on the NES, and yeah, sure, I just had to have it, and sure enough, a few months later for my birthday, I got Sega Genesis, which came bundled with Sonic 2 at the time, and yeah, I've basically just been playing way too many video games ever since as a result. And yeah, I was a huge fan of Sonic in general for a long time. I watched the cartoon and played all the video games and all that nonsense, but Not so much these days. Kind of less of a fan of the Sonic these days. That's maybe a story for another playthrough of another game, maybe. But yeah, that's me and Sonic in a nutshell. We go way back, me into this game, and yeah, that's that. The bosses in this game, if you couldn't tell, are like incredibly, laughably pathetic. It's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, they just die super fast. Everything in this game is super fast, even for a Sonic game on the Genesis, really. It's like, and yeah, it actually made kind of bad time in that zone, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not exactly a speedrunner of this game, although, with that said, there is a challenge in this, in the PSN version of this game. You get a trophy for beating this zone, Chemical Plant Act 1, beating it in under 40 seconds. So I kind of challenge myself to try and do that every time I play this zone, every time I play this act ever since. I don't know why. That's just kind of the way I like to play this particular Sonic game for some reason. It's just, I'm not exactly a speedrunner or anything, but I really like to make good time. It's just something I kind of focus on, is sort of routing a little bit, and indeed, there it is, 37 seconds, a very good time for me. But yeah, that's just the way I like to play this game. I'm not really competitive or anything like that. That's just, I just like to dash through, breeze through without a care in the world, and just blow straight through it. It's just, I can't explain it. It's like I said, not really a competitive thing. It's just, that's the way that this game is the most fun for me. And this is definitely the game most suited for it as well. Of course, you've got your spin dash, which was introduced to the series here, which makes it much easier to sort of zip about at really high, insanely fast speeds. Sonic 1, I talked a lot about Sonic 1 in my Let's Play of that game, but it was like, Sonic was kind of marketed as, this speedy character who would like run super fast, and Sega Genesis has blast processing, which lets the Sonic games have like the ludicrously high speeds that they have. But Sonic 1, there wasn't really a whole lot of that. There were like a few zones with like a few speedways where you could get like good speed on them. But Sonic 2 has really sort of solidified, I think, Sonic's identity as, or not really his identity as a character, but sort of the identity of the series. And here I'm going to go for a big shortcut. Oh yeah. And with that big jump there, yeah, you skip all of the underwater segments of this stage. And in fact, you can skip all of the water in every zone in this game. You don't have to go underwater at all in this game if you know what you're doing, which is, yeah, a good thing, definitely. I know a lot of people hate the underwater segments of Sonic the Hedgehog games, and just like I said, the bosses in this game, super pathetic. There are like a couple interesting ones, but especially if you know what you're doing, the bosses in this game just go down like absolutely nothing. It's honestly kind of funny, I think. But yeah, that was And yeah, we're already through 2 zones, so it's like it's not just the spin dash. The level design of the zones in this game also helps to. There's a lot more speedways. You got like Sonic 1. You kind of had like I described in my Let's Play of that game. You had kind of like an even split where you have some zones that are focused around like speedways with a lot of loop-to-loops and springboards and a lot of running around at top speed in specific levels. And then in other levels, there'd be sort of like obstacle course type things where you'd be just sort of, moving around on slow-moving platforms and that kind of nonsense. And there was kind of a sharp divide between the fast zones and the slow zones. And in this game, you've got kind of more of a balance within the same zone, really. And there's a weird glitch here where that enemy just doesn't interact with you at all, but only for like the first little bit where you're kind of past when you first enter the bush there. It's really weird. I don't know why it does that. Anyways, yeah, just the zones in Sonic 2 are a lot more conducive to speed, and you could tell that was sort of pretty much everything about this game just seemed to be sort of designed around solidifying kind of the identity of the series as like this really fast-paced game where you're just sort of running along all over the place at really fast, just like super high speeds. And so yeah, there's a lot more sort of speedway type areas in this game, a lot more loop-de-loops and that kind of stuff, where you're just a lot more opportunities to run really fast. And that's one of the things I think that one of the reasons that it's sort of a favorite among a lot of fans of the series. Okay, I'm not going to bother going up. That's sort of part of my normal route is to go up there. But sometimes that's one of the other things. It's like it's super fast-paced, but it's not gated or anything like that. It's still just as open. In fact, it's even more open-ended than the previous Sonic game. Oh, come on, I totally jumped there. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to get through each zone. Yeah, multiple routes through each level. It's kind of ridiculous how many different ways you can get through each level. And it's, yeah, again, one of the other things that's just super great about this game. It's just, it's got everything I want in a video game. It's just super fast-paced, a lot of different, big, wide open levels, a lot of different ways to go through. It's like, if you want to, you can take like a different route every time, and it's like no 2 playthroughs will be the same. And, or, you can kind of route it and just sort of breeze through super quick if that's what you want to do. Although with that said, this next zone coming up, because you notice that pretty much every act in this game can be completed in about a minute and a half or less. That kind of falls off later in the game. We'll get into that later in the game. But yeah, Casino Night here, though, zone here is sort of this is kind of your obstacle course zone, similar kind of in style to your, the slow-paced zones that you had in Sonic 1, where it's just, a lot of sort of moving around, although you do have the bumpers, which is kind of fun. I really enjoy just, this is obviously a pinball-themed level, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a really well-themed level. The theming of the levels in this game, and just the aesthetics overall, are just fantastic. Again, one of the reasons why... I mean, that's what this Let's Play is just going to be, I think, is just me gushing about how awesome this game is. For most of it, at least. We'll get into that later. But for now, just yeah, there's just so many great things about this game. The aesthetics, it's a great-looking game. I still think this is one of the most... just one of the most awesome games to just look at. One of the best-looking games of the 16-bit era. I mean, maybe not the best in terms of like graphical detail or anything like that, but just I don't know. It's bright and it does have a lot of detail, a lot of bright colors, and it's just I don't know. It's just got a really great look to it, and of course the music is like some of the best in gaming history. It's just oh, what a great game this is, and I'm having such a... Honestly, I thought for a while that this game was kind of overrated, and to be honest, I do still kind of like Sonic 3 better, just a little bit, or Sonic 3 and Knuckles, that is. But yeah, this game is definitely better than I remembered when I was sort of playing it a bunch in preparation for this LP. But yeah, Casino Night Zone here is actually one of my favorites. I know I mentioned that I like, sort of blitzing through at high speeds without stopping for anything, and you don't really get to do a lot of that in Casino Night, but even so, I just like the obstacles here. Like, I mentioned in my Sonic 1 Let's Play that, it's not that I hate like slow-paced obstacle zones. They're fun in their own right, and actually I think they're especially fun sort of mix things up in an otherwise really fast-paced game like Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So I think the way the rest of the levels are designed really helps this one stand out in a way that, you know, the slow-paced zones like the Marble Zone and stuff, and Spring Yard and stuff like that really didn't in Sonic 1. It's just, yeah, really, oh, dang it. Oh, that was a huge mistake. Oh well, so much for making good time. In fact, yeah, I'm probably going to go over 1:30 here as a result, but, you know, who cares? This is a fun zone to kind of hang around in. And actually, I mentioned that the bosses in this game are kind of, you know, laughably pathetic, but this here is actually one of the most interesting bosses in the series, I think. There's like, there's a lot of different ways to deal with this guy, and it's really cool, I think. But you can kind of cheese it in that, yeah, if you have really good control and are really good at sort of manipulating the bumper in the center here, you can have a really easy time with this boss. But other than that, like your first time going through this, it's like you can kind of run up the sides and jump off like that. You can mess around with the flippers and hit him that way. There's just a lot of ways. It's like the boss is just out of your reach, and there are a lot of different ways you can get up there. Like you can mess around with the bumpers at the top of the screen and sort of dive bomb him from above by just doing really high bounces from the bumpers up top. And there's just a lot of different ways to deal with that boss, and it's just a lot of fun, I think. One of the best bosses in the series. Yeah, this this game is so fast-paced, I'm gonna die and fall into a pit. That sucked.